This car has come a very long way from when I first picked it up over a year ago. I bought the car completely broken, and now it is a running and driving machine that gets me wherever I want to go whenever I want to go. It's a car I never originally planned to like as much as I actually do, but I love it. I've got this sort of rule when it comes to project cars. It's as simple as this. Tires are the most important mod you can do to your car to improve the way it drives. As soon as you have a reason to upgrade them, do it. You will not regret it. Wheels, however, are a different story. Unless you're spending a lot of money on lightweight racing wheels, wheels are for the most part a cosmetic modification. I think it's more important to get your project car in a nice mechanical situation before you worry about making it nice cosmetically. I've put a lot of work into the TT mechanically, and consequently I think it is time that we give it some nice wheels to complete the look. These are going to tremendously change how the car looks and sits, and I hope you are just as excited as I am.
Nice.
It's time to talk about tires and why I went with the ones I did. While the TT is a sports car, it's also my daily driver. Consequently, I wanted something that was performance-oriented, but also something that could handle wet weather. It just so happens that the Continental DWS 06 Pluses fit that bill. They're classified as an ultra performance all season, and from my research, they are one of the best rated tires on the market. There's some pretty cool things that they've done with this tire, and one of the things that I found the most quirky that honestly was really impressive to me is there is lettering for the name of the brand on the actual tread, the D, W, and S. These letters stand for dry, wet, and snow. They're engraved to different depths so that as the tire wears, you can see which environments you still have traction in. That's a small detail, but it's something I found pretty cool. We'll talk about tires more in detail in a little bit, but now it's time to show the wheels. These are TSW Sebrings, and they are finished in a satin black. Now I want to get one thing very clear about wheels. They are entirely a matter of personal opinion. Almost everyone is going to like something different on a car, and almost everybody has a different budget when it comes to aftermarket wheels. Wheels vary in price quite tremendously, and not everybody can afford every specific type of wheel. All I'm basically getting at is if you're worried about what other people are going to think of the wheels you choose to put on your car, you shouldn't be. This is one of those situations where your opinion of what you do matters more than anybody else. So long as the wheels and tires will mount safely to your car, it's up to you what you want them to look like. There are absolutely other wheels that I liked thinking about for the TT, including rotiforms and BBSs, but the price was the main problem for me. You see, I bought the TT extremely cheap because it was broken, and consequently, there's some part of me that doesn't like the idea of spending more on wheels for the car than I actually paid for the vehicle itself. I was absolutely blown away by the look of these wheels, especially at the price point they came in at. These are not only affordable, but the quality is incredible, and it's still a notable upgrade over the stock Fat 5s that come on the TT. I will not be getting rid of these, however. I'm going to keep them as my winter wheels. More than likely, I'm also going to take some time to learn to powder coat these Fat 5s and restore them because I feel like that'll be a valuable skill going forward in my life. Another thing I want to address as far as these wheels is the size. There's a really awesome website called tiresize.com which will help you determine what size tires are actually available for your car. Websites like this are incredibly useful when you're wanting to see how your car is going to behave with sizes of tires that are different than OEM. That brings me to the other decision I had to make in regard to these wheels and tires. What size to get? The TT suspension is quite forgiving when it comes to what size tires and wheels you can run. People run all the way up to 19s with little to no rubbing, but that really depends on the specific make and model of the wheel and the different offsets that you can run. There are a lot of deciding factors that you need to consider when debating if you should increase the size of your wheel. The side effects of increasing the size of your wheels and tires will be very specific to the profile of tire you go with, the width, and all the different configurations that you end up picking along the way. It's going to be something you're going to have to decide for yourself. After I got the first two wheels put on, I was completely in love with the look, and it's not even sitting how it should considering I have different tires on the other side of the car. While I was jacking the car up, I also noticed something peculiar about the TT and the specific jack point I was using.
Dude, the TT is weird. I'm gonna get a jack stand.
Generally speaking, there's one thing that made the wheel and tire size decision pretty easy for me. You see, over the last year, my goal for this car has been pretty much the same. I wanted to build a daily driver car that I could also take on road courses and autocross on the weekends. Consequently, in my case, all of the modifications I'm doing are best suited for this car's overall performance and handling. My aftermarket wheels are the same size as my Fat 5s, 17 inches in diameter. Unless you spend a lot of money on lightweight wheels, jumping from a 17-inch rim to an 18 or a 19 is going to add a ton of weight. That rotational mass doesn't really matter a ton in your daily driving, but when you're on a track or autocrossing, that's something you really got to take into consideration. The TT's already not a light car, so this is something you want to look into. It's also going to be more cost effective to go through 17-inch tires while on the track. Really though, wheel size is also a matter of preference, so do what you think looks best for your car. This suits my needs the best. You'll also notice that when you buy aftermarket wheels, you're going to need a specific type of lug bolt. The one on the right is the new one, and it's an acorn style. You can see it has a different metal housing to help it actually mesh with the wheel itself. You can't run OEM lugs on aftermarket wheels because there won't be enough thread on the bolt to actually attach the wheel safely. This is a really important thing you need to consider when you're buying aftermarket wheels, and you need to make sure not to forget this because it's a matter of safety. Another thing to consider when shopping for aftermarket wheels is spacers. To run or not to run? That is the question when it comes to spacers, and to answer that is pretty simple when you actually have the wheels on your car. If the wheels look too sunken in and non-flush for your liking, you're going to want to run them. As far as spacers on my car go, I need to run them just because I think the wheels look a little bit too sunken in. I'll be more than happy to show you guys how to measure offset for spacers and order them in the next episode. But for today, all we have left to do is to torque the wheels down and admire our handiwork.
Now, I spend a fair amount of time in the gym, and one of the downsides of that is that I tend to over-torque things, and I happen to actually break my Harbor Freight torque wrench by over-tightening wheels when I was working on the S4 last week, so I bought a new one.
Buying a quality torque wrench is something that you will want to do if you plan on working on your car or any car in the future. Being able to accurately measure the rotational force applied to certain bolts is absolutely critical for almost all automotive jobs, wheels and tires included. I don't think it's really worth it to buy a digital torque wrench, but I do think it's worth it to buy a torque wrench that has a good maximum torque range that it can measure. There's nothing worse than snapping your torque wrench and shooting in the dark guessing on values. This is a click-style spring-calibrated torque wrench from Craftsman, and it is a notable upgrade from the one I had from Harbor Freight.
This one is rated for much higher torque loads, so I should have a lot harder of a time breaking this one. I'm excited.
You'll find the specific torque rating for the lug bolts on your car in your owner's manual. You can cross-check this with some information you find online too, though. Since these are new wheels, after about 50 to 100 miles of driving the car, you're going to want to retorque the bolts just to make sure that the metal's adjusted properly.
So something a lot of people don't know about click torque wrenches is they're spring operated. So when you're done with it, one of the things you need to do is put it back to the lowest possible setting, or 0 Newton meters or foot-pounds or whatever, so that they stay calibrated and they work.
You really don't want to keep your spring compressed and reading a certain value. That's why you want to set it to 0 and decompress it entirely. All this does is help the life of your torque wrench. Now, I know I didn't buy the most expensive or the nicest or really the best wheels and tires on the market for this car, and that's something I'm okay with. To be frank, I'm honestly really proud of being able to buy them at all. I think these are absolutely stunning on this car. I feel very fortunate that I work hard enough to be able to do something like this to a project car, and it's something that I will never take for granted. We're getting very close to having this car ready to be taken around a road course. I've got a few things on the list for the next few weeks for this car, including coilovers, brakes, and spacers. After that, it's a matter of deciding if we want to wrap the car or go straight into installing a bigger turbo. Both of these will eventually happen, but before we do any sort of modification, I have a more pressing issue, and this is something that I find pretty ironic and honestly quite funny. Over the past few months, while I've been fixing up the S4, this car has been reliable. In fact, it's been too reliable. Just as I made the decision to pamper her with new wheels and tires, she decided to start misfiring on the way home. Thankfully, I am almost certain it has to do with spark plugs and ignition coils. So my next video on the TT is going to be about fixing misfires, since that's the most pressing issue at hand. Either way, I am tremendously excited about how this car is turning out, and I absolutely love how it looks. The wheels make a huge difference in the way the car looks, and the tires make a tremendous difference in the way the car handles and performs. I'll go more into detail on quantifying how good they are after we get the misfire sorted out. Either way, thank you so much for watching. Your guys' support means the absolute world to me. If you enjoyed the video or learned something, consider liking and subscribing for more. Once again, thank you so very much. Have a wonderful day.